Well, here we are, doing a tiny little episode. I think do we need some kind of pun to? Is there some way we can tie in? Like my dad wrote a porno at the big podcast. They do their footnotes. Do we need a pun to call these little mini episodes something, or do we just call them mini episodes?
I don't know. What do we call it? I don't know. We are punny enough, probably, but
yeah, we should have thought about this before we hit record.
Probably should have, really. I mean, I don't know what we would call ourselves, Freddie Alexia, because would we do a punny?
The dregs? What about dregs?
It could be the dregs because it could be a literal Fruity Lexia reference, or it could be a Bardo Popstars reference. I'm not really sure.
Well, if anyone's actually listening, you can send us a little DM and tell us what we should be calling our sort of smaller episodes. For now, let's call it a mini episode.
Yeah, a little to wet your whistle.
Yeah.
A whistle wetter.
Something to keep your whistle wet between the bigger episodes.
We hope your whistle is suitably wet. Yes.
Now, I thought after listening back to last week's episode, I got very excited about some of like the theme songs from TV shows I loved as a smaller person. So I wanted to throw that at you and see if you had any, other than the Popstars theme, of course, which is delightful. And I think, and we can cut this out if I'm wrong, but I think it's Pop Music by M that's been remixed. Anyway.
Think that it is. Not entirely sure. Can't quite get our heads around that.
Yeah, it does sound like it. I mean, if you do a side-by-side comparison, they're very similar, but it also could be one of those things where they've just changed enough so they don't have to pay anyone for it. Anyway, we'll find out when the lawyers call. But other than potentially Pop Music by M, which is the Popstars theme, did you have any other theme songs from TV shows where you just heard it come on the TV and ran to sit down and cross your legs and sit 2 centimeters away from the screen?
Yeah, a few actually. I was thinking about this, like what else would incite that kind of excitement in me today, 20 years later? And I was thinking, what did I watch 20 years ago? And I was obsessed with Neighbours and Home and Away.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure I haven't listened to those theme songs today, for a long time actually, but I'm sure they've changed. They've probably had many, many iterations since 20 years ago. But if I heard the Home and Away theme song from, the Isla Fisher, Melissa George, even earlier, like the Danny Minogue time, right back when Kate Ritchie was a kid, if I heard that version of the Home and Away theme song that was really like a love power ballad, I would probably crash tackle anybody to get near a TV to watch those really old episodes of Home and Away. And probably the same for Neighbours as well. If I could, anything sort of, I don't know, that the era of Rayleigh Hill and Kimberly Davies and
oh god, this goes beyond my knowledge of Neighbours.
Oh no, look, I have maintained, as a Neighbours icon myself.
Elbow number 3 in the corner of the screen.
Yeah. Milkshake drinker number 2, bike rider number 3. Yeah, look, the formative years of my career doing Neighbours. But those people, from that time, I would say the Neighbours theme song back then, oh my gosh, that was such a great theme song.
It's funny though, I don't know, because like the Home and Away one's quite romantic and a little bit dramatic, but the Neighbours one's just so like upbeat and happy. So if there's a dramatic whatever, someone's been hit by a car while they were being rushed to get their kidney replaced or something.
Sure.
And there's a big dramatic scene at the beginning, and then this happy, clappy sort of chonk piano music comes on. And I don't know, it never really it was just too different
I think that's the charm of the Neighbours theme song. Early on, Neighbours was, it really was that. If you think back, it was so innocent. I mean, even Home and Away was, but Neighbours was always, I always feel anyway, and I could be wrong, and people listening don't at me, but I always feel like Neighbours was kind of like the little sister to Home and Away. Right. In a way. Like Home and Away just felt a little more grown up. It was on a little bit later in the evening. Certainly growing up in Hobart, they played one after the other, Neighbours and Home and Away, because they shared, a network. They were on the same
Yeah,
channel
well,
in
we only
Hobart.
had 3 channels, I think.
That's
when I was
right.
growing up. Is that
I
right?
didn't, you know, when I moved to Melbourne when I was 16, I had no idea that there was such a thing as Channel 10.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was completely new to me. I had no idea that Channel 10 was a real thing.
Yeah, because what Southern Cross was like an amalgamation of
Yeah.
7 and 10.
Yeah, we
at
had
the
Southern
same
Cross,
time?
which
Yeah.
at the time, I think it may be different now, but at the time, Southern Cross then was Hobart's version of 7 and 10, and it played all those shows together in its own kind of, lineup. And until I moved to Melbourne, Channel 10 was a complete new concept to me. It was amazing.
Well, I mean, I was barely allowed to watch any commercial TV, so I think.
What did you watch? What were some of the theme songs you liked?
I mean, the big one is, of course, Round the Twist. I think everyone,
so good.
I don't know any child who grew up at the same time as us in Australia, and potentially afterwards. I actually don't know how long that show went on for, but
it went on until I was in high school because I went to a school. In my high school, one of the kids that was doing it was going to the same school.
Right.
I mean,
you can obviously. You can map it by who was playing Linda, I think, that show.
I think that show went on far too long than it was really needed to. And I think it probably, I don't really know what it became, but it probably jumped the shark. Weirdly, for that show, it jumped the shark, I think.
Yeah. That was probably the name of one of the episodes.
Probably
was. It was one of those confusing things, when the cast changed, but no one mentions it. And so you're watching like a new Bronson, like, that's not Bronson, that's some other kid.
Exactly.
But you're just expected to pretend.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're trying to think about your favorite episodes and you try and reflect back on, I love that episode where the fox had lemons in its eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
And or something ridiculous like that. And, in your mind, you're thinking of this Bronson and somebody else thinking of that Bronson. What was the older brother's name? Pete?
Yeah, Pete.
Yeah. You're thinking of 2 different sets of people. I don't know. That's a great one. I fully support that one.
The other one, it's a bit more obscure, but it was Grim Tales, and it was specifically, it was just such a great show because it was this comedian Rick Mail who was just a funny guy anyway.
Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah, exactly. Drop Dead Fred, Young Ones. And he would be, I think it was only like 10 or 15 minutes long, and he'd just retell a fairy tale from the Brothers Grimm. Sitting in this big chair, and then they'd move to all these like animated sequences, and just the way he'd be telling it, and it was just such like, I don't remember ever seeing another show like it because it was all like stop motion animation, and it was really exciting and funny and weird.
To listen to?
I bet it's on
watch?
YouTube somewhere.
Probably is. I feel like that was like one of those quick shows that maybe played on a Saturday morning with like that Trapdoor show and some of those,
or like it was on the afternoon show and there was Monkey Magic for half an hour, 40 minutes, and then Trapdoor, and then the Grim Tales after that.
It was one of those. It's so funny. It's funny, isn't it, those kids' TV shows, how they stay with you, some of those theme songs, like, Round the Twist or things like, well, even Grim Tales, things like Ship to Shore. Do you remember that show?
Oh, yes.
With Hermes and Darkus.
Good theme song as well.
What a great theme song. What a great theme song.
And is that a show where if we look back at the cast, we'd suddenly go, oh, it's that person and that person and that person?
I think so. I think a lot of the people on it, I don't know if they went to be like on Heartbreak High or on Home and Away or Neighbours, or they probably all ended up doing Underbelly 15 years later.
Yeah.
But I reckon they've all gone on to do something and we just completely are oblivious to it.
I mean, I've picked a couple that was sort of from my early childhood, but something like the show I was really into as a teenager, as many 14-year-old boys was Keeping Up Appearances. I don't know why. I just used to absolutely love that show. And for those who don't know it, it's the story of this old, well, she's not that old, but when I was 14, it seemed like she was ancient. Probably a couple in their 50s or early 60s, in this sort of small average town in the UK. And she thinks she's really posh, and like she just spends the whole time trying to keep up appearances. So she's trying to pretend that she's affluent and everything's going well, and she's got like slobby family members, and the neighbors are terrified of her. And I don't know, it's just like, it's not aimed at 14-year-old Australian boys, but I don't know, something about just someone not fitting in their environment. I think I really Hyacinth Bouquet was me, but in a different embodiment, I think, at the time.
Look, I totally agree with you. Totally. It was a great show. I loved it as well. I mean, again, probably not teenage boy oriented, I wouldn't have thought, but that's okay. We both had very refined palates
Yeah.
as for teenage boys.
Exactly. We had the palettes of
The palettes of 50-year-old women.
yeah, which is fine, you know.
It's pretty much. I wish that wasn't true, but it pretty much is true. But it's so funny. I love that you are telling people like the plot synopsis of Keeping Up Appearances, because you actually have to. There are people that haven't even seen it, and it blows my mind. I showed somebody recently the actual show. They'd never heard of it, and they were completely mystified by this whole thing. How you can have missed Keeping Up Appearances, I think it's an absolute crime. Do yourself a favor, go out and watch Keeping Up Appearances. It's probably on BritBox or Stan or something.
It's one of those ones where I tried to watch a bit of it on YouTube, and it's recently all been like collected again, and they've put it up on something like BritBox, I reckon. So
yeah, it's
no more watching it for free. Not that I've been doing that.
No, you can't bootleg it.
Yeah,
you know, one show that has a great theme song that I used to love.
Apart from Gumby, yeah. Go on.
Apart from Gumby. You know, I always had a soft spot for Pokey in Gumby. But anyway, that's probably another topic.
I mean, this is a sub one, but Banana Man as well, I really like the theme song for. Like, that would get me excited. And Super Ted as well.
Banana Man and Spotty. Yeah. I loved Super Ted. Anyway, look, we digress here.
We digress, but look, yeah. There's a strict agenda here.
Circle back. But yeah, as a kid, staying home from school, I loved being able to watch reruns of A Country Practice, which was just so amazing. That theme song is so beautiful, and it makes me cry, that theme song, probably even now. Yeah, it's because it's so emotional. Like, it's such a depressing theme song, really.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's such a downer. But really, how can you be down when you're about to watch Esme Watson and Bob Hatfield and, you know, Cookie and, you know, anything with Georgie Parker in it, you know, anything at all.
Was Georgie Parker in that? Jeez.
I've said that now. I have no idea. I think Georgie Parker was in it as a kid. As it like a teenager or a young person? I'm going to Google it right now.
I barely remember any of Country Practice, and I think it was because it was one where when the theme song came on, I would switch it off, which I know is probably sacrilege.
Really?
But
Get
the one
out.
thing, the one thing the one thing I still do remember about it is there was an actor in it called Wendy Stralo. Does she ring a bell?
Wendy Stralo. She doesn't ring a bell, but no disrespect, Wendy. Oh, yes, there she is, Wendy Stralo. She played Judy Loveday. She's an Australian actress.
Yeah. Not only is she an Australian actress, but she taught me yoga at university.
Did she really?
Yeah. So we had to do sort of mandatory yoga classes at uni. That's a whole other story. And, you know, I turned up and got into the room, and there was standing Judy Loveday. There was Judy Loveday. Plain as day.
Oh my gosh.
Telling us how to do a downward dog. Yeah.
I mean, as much as I love your Judy Loveday / Wendy Strello anecdote, I just want to confirm that Georgie Parker was, in fact, in A Country Practice. I was correct. She played Sister Lucy something or other. And can I just tell you another amazing anecdote very quickly before we move on? Here, if you type into Google A Country Practice and you click on cast, you know, you get the icons like Lorraine Desmond and Shane Porteous and Penny Cook and all the pig people that were famous at the time on that show. And then you scroll right down to the bottom of all the different cast members, and there is Nicole Kidman.
What?
Who apparently, she would have done one episode.
The Nicole Kidman.
The Nicole Kidman, the one, the only Australian icon, legend, film star, extravaganza, love of my life, future best friend of mine, Nicole Kidman. And you will die with this. You know what her character's name was?
Was she third coffee drinker from the left, following in your footsteps? No.
Probably was. She was probably an extra. But her character here says she was Simone, and her surname was Jenkins.
Oh my God. It's meant to be.
I mean, it's meant to be. Is there anything like the stars have aligned right here, right now, live on this podcast? Here it's, you know, the Jimmy Fallon, Nicole Kidman thing where they were meant to go on a date. Nah, that's nothing. Here I am talking about A Country Practice. Find out live on air that Nicole Kidman played a character with my surname. Meant to be.
Well, I guess we should get off this recording then, and you should go give her a call.
I am literally figuring that out right now.
So yeah, I guess that's it. So we've got an Instagram. So
literally Googling how to contact Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, I know roughly where she lives.
Great, let's
anyway.
go.
So, yes, we've got an Instagram. So, feel free to send us a direct message if you want to tell us how much you love the show. Definitely don't send us anything nasty.
Slip into our DMs and feel free to send something nasty. It's fine. Anything you can do, we can do so much better. So give it your worst.
That's true. There's a link in the description to our Acast support page. And I guess we'd better run away so you and Nicole can get nattering away. Bye, everybody.
See you.